A very good afternoon to you. This is your daytime update on Newsroom Africa, Channel 405. I am Thami. The former President Jacob Zuma has described the directions by the Constitutional Court for mitigation of sentence as a political gimmick. Yesterday was the deadline that the Apex Court gave to the former president after Zondo inquiry argued he should be imprisoned for 2 years for contempt of court. For an understanding of the implications of the former president's response to the court, I'm joined on the line by Dr. Oscar van Heerden, a political analyst and international relations scholar. A very good afternoon to you, Doctor. Thank you so much for your time today. Perhaps let's start with how the former president has described the attempts of the Constitutional Court. He's called them a political gimmick. What could he mean?
Well, thanks, Thami. You know, the president, when you go through that 21-page letter, it becomes quite apparent that the words that continuously come up is political gimmick, it's judicial bias, it is all the synonyms for suggesting that our judicial system and some of our judges apparently are in cahoots with certain politicians to try and effect a particular political agenda, which, of course, as we know, is the opinion of the former president.
Has the former president, in your opinion, been given ample opportunity to push this particular case forward, or to at least give merit to the allegations that he is making against the judiciary? Has he been given that opportunity, you believe?
In my opinion, Thami, he has been given ample time. You know, he knew way in advance that he was going to be required to come and testify at the Zondo Commission. He came with delaying tactics. Eventually, he put in an application for the recusal of the chairperson of the commission in the form of Deputy Chief Justice Zondo. And of course, he makes a case in his letter to Chief Justice Mogoeng, the fact that as he was applying for the recusal of Deputy Chief Justice Zondo, he did not actually recuse himself, even in reading out the findings of the actual application. Now, the truth of the matter is, and legal experts have told us, that when you request for the recusal of a sitting judge, it is that very judge that is going to apply him or herself to that application and make a judgment. Now, you might argue that that means you are a referee and player, but that's how the system works. And so Zondo did exactly that. He then denied the application, and as you know, President Zuma simply got up and walked out and left the proceedings. Hence, the commission then applying to the courts to actually compel him to come. And this is where we are at now.
So what does that do for the Constitutional Court? What are the options that are now available to the court post the former president's reaction and statements?
Look, I mean, you know, the fact of the matter is that the former president does highlight one or two very real issues in his long letter. One of which is, why did the commission go straight to the Constitutional Court to actually make a ruling as to whether he should or should not attend the commission? Because he feels that his rights has been violated. If it had gone to a high court, he could have appealed in the Supreme Court of Appeal, and yet now it has been placed squarely on the agenda of the highest court in the land, which gives him no room to maneuver. I'm saying that if indeed the former president came to the Constitutional Court when he deliberated on this issue and made representation, he could easily have convinced the court that indeed it is not necessarily the appropriate court, but he chose to stay away. He chose to not make representation. Instead, he chooses to write a 21-page letter to the Chief Justice.
So, in his letter, the former president says, and I quote, that he is ready to, quote-unquote, become a prisoner of the Constitutional Court. He says, for the cause of constitutional rights, I will walk in jail as the first prisoner of the Constitutional Court. Break this down for us. What does it mean, and what are the implications of this, not only for the former president, but also for the Constitutional Court, and perhaps for the dynamics of the country?
You know, Thami, I think everyone, including Zuma, is conveniently is confusing issues. The fact that the Commission of Inquiry suggested or applied to the Constitutional Court for a sentence of 2 years imprisonment in no way mean that that is going to be upheld. The judges of the Constitutional Court will still apply themselves, their legal minds, as to the appropriate sentence. The Chief Justice, in his own right, have opted to request from the former president what he thinks an appropriate sanction would be. Now, the reason why he does this is because he wants to dispel this very notion that Zuma is now articulating in his letter, that he will become a prisoner of the Constitutional Court. The court is saying
Dr. Van Heerden, it looks like our connection there is compromised. Are you still with us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Please do continue, sir.
I'm saying the court is trying to say to the accused that we are not the ones that want to send you to prison. You are here because you have broken the law. You chose to break the law, and therefore you are the reason why you are going to prison. And it's a very, very important distinction, because Zuma wants to create this impression that everyone is against him, the courts are against him, and the justices of the Constitutional Court wants to see his back in prison. And they are saying that is not the case. There has been wrongdoing. You are held in contempt of court. What do you think is the appropriate sentence? And if indeed, as he has now made clear, that he is not going to give them that response in an affidavit, the court will then have to apply itself.
You've mentioned there, Dr. Van Heerden, the facts, the merits of the case, the reality of the process that has taken place. But then there's also the other side, which is the message that is being constructed and the end result, which could just be an illusion. Which of these two do you believe are the most prominent regarding this particular situation of the former president? The former president's narrative that he is being painted into a corner, that he is a victim of the Constitutional Court and the law, or the latter?
Yeah, you're right, Thami. You are absolutely right. There are two things here. There is the law, there is the legal process, which is what we are talking about, but then there is also a political process and a political narrative that Zuma is trying to advocate. He is the victim. The courts are against him. By the way, these are the same courts and the same judges that he has sought relief from over the years. In many, many cases, in many, many instances, he has sought relief from these courts, but now that he has painted himself into a corner, he wants to accuse the judiciary of judicial bias. He wants to insinuate that judges have political agendas and so on and so forth. And I think that the people will see straight through it. It is simply not the case.
You believe the people will see straight through it. I guess we'll have to see. Time will only tell really how this unfolds post the Constitutional Court's deliberation and whatever sanctions that the court actually does put in place. But Dr. Oscar van Heerden, always a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you very much for your insight. That's a political analyst there, Dr. van Heerden.